Welcome to Headline Hub Updates. Subscribe and press the bell icon for more updates. The world jolted awake Trump to meet Putin in Alaska for Ukraine peace talks. Anchorage, a remote frontier between old Cold War rivals, was suddenly the center of global diplomacy. The White House confirmed the news, sending shockwaves from Kiev to Washington. This wasn't the result of months of careful negotiation. It was a classic Trump move: bold, disruptive, unpredictable. The meeting was set for 72 hours later, with one agenda ending the war in Ukraine. For years, the conflict has been a brutal stalemate, costing countless lives. Now, two of the world's most controversial leaders would meet, bypassing traditional alliances. Could this audacious move bring peace, or was it a recipe for disaster? Markets trembled, pundits speculated. Was this genuine diplomacy or political theater? Trump's supporters called it decisive leadership. Critics warned he was unprepared for Putin. For Ukrainians, the news brought hope and dread. Any chance to end the bloodshed was tempting. But one name was missing: Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. His absence cast a long shadow, raising fears that Ukraine's fate might be decided without its voice. President Trump faced the world in the Rose Garden, radiating confidence. "This war has gone on too long. Too many have died. I promise to end endless wars, and I will." He framed the Alaska meeting as a mission, not a negotiation. "I'm going to get a deal done, fast, maybe in 24 hours. Details were scarce. Trump focused on his personal rapport with Putin as the key to peace. "We understand each other, that's a good thing." He dismissed traditional diplomacy as slow and ineffective. "The experts have failed. It's time for a different approach, an American approach that puts peace first." Trump cast himself as the indispensable dealmaker. Using American power and his own charisma, he was vague on leverage but clear on intent. "We're going to Alaska to stop the killing, and we will succeed." The world was left to wonder, what would this American approach mean for Ukraine? Would Trump's boldness bring peace or risk disaster? The press pressed for specifics, but Trump offered only confidence. The stakes could not be higher. The countdown to Alaska had begun. The glaring issue: Ukraine wasn't at the table. When asked, Trump replied, "Too many people in the room, you can't get a deal. First, I need to sit down with Putin, hammer out the big points." He insisted this wasn't a snub to Zelensky, calling him brave and tough. "This first meeting has to be just me and Putin. We'll get the structure in place." Trump's plan: negotiate a deal, then call Zelensky from Alaska with the terms. "It'll be a great deal for Ukraine, for Russia, for the world. I'm confident he'll accept it." Critics called this approach an ultimatum, not diplomacy, stripping Ukraine of agency. For Ukraine, being a participant in its own fate is sacred. The idea that its future could be decided thousands of miles away was deeply unsettling. Trump's confidence that Zelensky would accept the terms seemed dangerously naive. The empty chair in Alaska became a symbol of a sidelined nation. Would Ukraine's future be decided without its consent? The world watched, uneasy. The stakes for Ukrainian sovereignty had never been clearer. The pressure on Zelensky and Ukraine was mounting. Europe's response was swift: nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine. Brussels issued a statement: any peace process must have Ukraine at its core. German and French leaders voiced deep reservations about the summit's format. "A just peace cannot be imposed from the outside," said a Berlin official. Europe feared Trump might offer Putin concessions that would destabilize the continent. The risk trading long-term security for a short-term headline. Eastern Europe worried about territorial losses or forced neutrality for Ukraine. Such a deal would be seen as catastrophic, rewarding aggression and setting a dangerous precedent. Behind the scenes, European diplomats coordinated a unified response. Their message to Washington: a deal Ukraine rejects will not have Europe's support. Without European backing, any peace would be fragile and lack legitimacy. Europe drew a red line. Ukraine's role could not be bypassed. The transatlantic alliance was being tested. Nowhere was alarm louder than in Poland. Sharing a border with Ukraine and a history with Russian aggression, Poland was unequivocal. The inviolability of borders is non-negotiable. Any plan involving Ukraine ceding territory was a blueprint for future wars. For Poland and the Baltics, Ukraine's fight is existential. Their own security is at stake. A land for peace deal would validate Putin's ambitions and threaten NATO's eastern flank. Poland insists on full restoration of Ukraine's borders, backing this with aid and support. Trump negotiating a different outcome was seen as a betrayal. Rewarding aggression with territory is a mistake Europe has made before, with disastrous consequences. Eastern Europe is not just watching. They're active stakeholders, hosting refugees and supporting Ukraine. Their opposition to any compromise on sovereignty is more than rhetoric. They could refuse to recognize new borders or support a government in exile. For Poland, this is a fundamental security issue, not just politics. In Kharkiv, near the Russian border, the Alaska news felt both distant and deeply personal. The city endures daily air raids and shelling. Peace is a desperate hope, but trust is scarce. Mayor Ihor Terekov, a symbol of resilience, said, "We want peace, but not at any price. Peace without justice is just a pause before the next war." On the streets, opinions split. An elderly woman prayed for peace. A young volunteer distrusted distant leaders. Trump, Putin, they don't know our losses. No one should decide our future for us. The mood hoped for an end to suffering, but fierce determination not to surrender. Kharkiv's people dream of rebuilding, but only with victory and sovereignty. They fear a peace that legitimizes occupation and leaves them vulnerable. For them, true peace means security and freedom. The cost of war is ever present, fueling both longing and defiance. The city's fate hangs in the balance. The world's decisions will shape their future. Kharkiv waits, wary but unbroken. In Kyiv, a former Ukrainian ambassador watched the Alaska news with wary eyes. "Any dialogue is better than none," he said, "but excluding Ukraine treats us as an object, not a subject." The summit's format, he warned, played into Putin's narrative that Ukraine's fate belongs to great powers. Trump's belief in personal deals was seen as dangerously naive. This isn't a real estate deal, it's about national identity and survival. The ambassador feared Trump might trade Ukraine's security for a quick win. A bad peace is worse than no peace. Ceding territory or abandoning NATO dreams would be a death sentence. Ukrainians hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. Trust in their own strength is their last safeguard. The stakes, sovereignty, survival, and the right to decide their own future. Kyiv braces for the outcome, determined not to be sidelined. The world's eyes are on Alaska, but Ukraine's resolve remains unbroken. Amid skepticism, some U.S. experts saw Trump's unpredictability as a potential asset. "The establishment has managed the conflict, not resolved it," said a former National Security Council official. Trump's unpredictability could unsettle Putin, who thrives on predictable systems. He's not bound by policy papers or alliances. That creates leverage. Trump's transactional style might force Putin to make real choices. He could propose taboo ideas, like Ukrainian neutrality for U.S.-enforced security guarantees. It's high risk, high reward. The current path is all risk, no reward. The danger. Trump could be outmaneuvered or make a bad deal, but his ego might prevent him from being seen as losing to Putin. If a win means a ceasefire that saves lives without selling out Kyiv, it could be worth the risk. It's a gamble, but so is the status quo. The world waits to see if disruption can break the deadlock. Alaska could be a turning point or a disaster. The summit's most painful question: trading Ukrainian land for peace. The idea, Ukraine ceding occupied territories for a ceasefire and security guarantees, haunts the talks. For Trump, it might seem pragmatic. For Ukraine, it's existential. The Constitution forbids surrendering land. Any leader who does risks being branded a traitor. Years of sacrifice have forged Ukraine's identity. Giving up territory would betray that. The practicalities are nightmarish. Which lands? What happens to those living there? And how to enforce new borders? Many Ukrainians see this as abandoning their own people to oppression. Yet the alternative is endless war. Some argue a frozen conflict is inevitable. A formal deal could at least end the bloodshed. It's a devil's bargain. Territorial integrity versus human life. The world holds its breath as Alaska decides.